There you go. All right. Those of you who ever miss it, for one reason or another, just know that we always record Shelly's programs and we have a YouTube channel. And when you get the newsletter, you could access it directly from the newsletter. You don't have to really go into YouTube on your own. So it's just one of the benefits. You will always get any of Shelly's past reviews on our YouTube channel. So looking at February, another jam-packed month. If you're not getting your newsletters or your emails, please contact us and let us know so that we could correct it. I'm not going over anything because you have it on your own to read. And tonight we are doing Bliss. I don't know about anybody else, but I've been watching Turkish streaming since, like, I looked at the year 2006, I think. So I've always loved the way the Turkish streaming has come. I'm not that familiar with many of the movies, but Shelly is going to fill us in and tell us all about Bliss and all about what we saw and maybe some of the things when we watched the movie, we didn't really see it. So Shelly's going to fill us in. Thank you very much. Bert, you have a question? You're on mute. You're on mute. Unmute.
Is it possible when you list or post it on YouTube that in addition to the words Cafe Cinémathèque, the name of the film is on? Currently, what's listed is Jesse Isaacs and Shelly Isaacs, pardon me, and the date. 3 months ago, 3 years ago, is if there's a way to post the name of the film that's being discussed.
I will check it out. I'm going to venture to say no, but it's a great question and a great thought. I'll see who puts it into YouTube and see if they could do that.
Yeah, I have no control over that, Bert.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Shelly, take it away and tell us about Bliss.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. It's nice to see you. Okay, so this evening we are diving into a film that is as visually breathtaking as it is socially provocative. Bliss, or Mutluluk, is the Turkish title, and it's is a landmark achievement in contemporary Turkish cinema. It was released in 2007, but couldn't be more resonant. And was directed by Abdullah Oguz. It was adapted from a 2002 best-selling novel. The author was Zulfu Livanelli, who is an author, a screenwriter, a musician, very well known. He's an activist in Turkey. He's been forced out of the country. He's been threatened with arrest. His treatment in Turkey is much like those filmmakers and novelists in Iran who fall under persecution. He's lived in New York. He's worked with a number of great contemporaries, and now he's been involved he was involved very heavily with the production of the film. And the film arrived at a pivotal moment, becoming one of the first major narrative films to directly confront the reality of honor killings. And in doing so, it serves as a panoramic allegory for the very identity of modern Turkey. To understand the weight of the film, we have to look at what is considered a bestial code. It critiques in certain remote traditional villages in eastern Turkey, a world away from the cosmopolitan streets of Istanbul. There exists a practice rooted in a rigid interpretation of family honor. When a woman is raped, she is often viewed as unclean, regardless of her lack of consent. To cleanse the family's reputation, the custom dictates that she must be killed. While other films, like The Stoning of Soraya M., which was also a very popular film at that time worldwide, which depicted this brutality and a graphic, almost visceral ferocity, Bliss chooses a different path. It explores the divide between an advancing modern culture and these generations-old traditions, framing the struggle not just as a crime, but as a deep-seated cultural alienation. The film, it begins in the village of Tascal, a place of haunting beauty where homes are carved, where you've seen the homes carved into sheer rock faces. It's an incredible place. The director chose the location because its ancient architecture feels like a physical manifestation of a frozen time. As he said it, a physical manifestation of a frozen time. The very first images establish a visual language of circles and reflections. We see a hill mirrored in the still waters of a lake, followed by that remarkable aerial shot of a herd of sheep moving in a tight, hypnotic circle. This is an omen. The sheep move as one, blindly following a path that leads nowhere. Just as the villagers follow the Torah or the code of honor without individual thought, it is here that we find 17-year-old Miriam's body lying on the shore. The transition from the serenity of the lake right afterwards to the claustrophobia of Miriam's home is jarring. The scene of her incarceration is particularly agonizing. Her stepmother, acting as the enforcer of patriarchal law, locks her in a dark room, and it's as if she's in a catatonic state at first, in shock. And then after a while, we learn, his stepmother convinces the father, is basically pushing the father into what must be done, and she throws that length of rope into the room. The cruelty here is naturally psychological. The family expects Miriam to perform the execution herself to restore their honor. When she refuses, although her father seems to question the whole thing, he sits there meekly. When Miriam refuses, when she puts the noose around her neck and sees her stepmother at the window, she gives a twisted smile as if, I dare you, and throws the rope to the floor, asserting her right to live. The burden shifts then to her cousin, or second cousin, Kemal, who is a commando returning from the psychological horrors of war and is now ordered to kill Miriam. As Kemal and Miriam begin their journey, the locations act as milestones of psychological change. This is such a visually powerful film. Every scene visually cues us as to, the feelings, what might be happening, but they each act as a milestone of psychological change. As the train traverses the countryside, we see the landscape itself acting as a character. The Turkish desert, the harsh, craggy mountains lurking in the background like the primitive traditions that birthed these people. Then on the ferry to Istanbul, she's once again captured by the sight of the city as Kemal tells her to be quiet and not speak to anybody. He's only worried she'll give him up. But Kemal seeks out his brother Jakob. When he learns what Kemal is up to, he tells him to realize what world he's living in, to grow up. He lives in a primitive, barbaric world, and this is not that place. But Kemal still talks to him and convinces him what he's ordered to do, and he will carry it out. And when Jakob's wife, speaking to Miriam, realizes what's happening, she remains silent. One of the sheep. She lies there in silence as Miriam is taken off by Kemal. The first turning point in the film occurs when Kemal forces Miriam to jump, but pulls her back into life. And their real journey is truly about to begin. Another turning point occurs at the fishery. on the Aegean coast where his friend gets him a job. If the village was a place of dry rock, the fishery now is a place of labor and utility. It is here that Kemal first sees Miriam not as a shamed relative, but as a person capable of work and joy. As the two sit down to dinner, he feeds her the fish, even worries when she starts choking on the bone. But he later on awakens to a nightmare of her seducing him, as if she's a demon coming in his sleep. And finally settles back, and as they have to leave, Irfan shows up on his damaged yacht. It is here that the film suggests that while the land holds the weight of the past, true growth and transformation always comes by way of water. Water is the catalyst for every major shift in the narrative. It is the lake at the beginning, where Miriam's secret is first unearthed. It is the fishery that provides a temporary safe haven. And it is Irfan's yacht that serves as a floating middle ground where the village and the city can finally meet. A disillusioned sociology professor and intellectual who has abandoned his sophisticated life and his bourgeois wife in Istanbul, Irfan becomes the catalyst for their transformation. They quickly bond when Irfan offers them a job to help him on the boat. It seems that here, life begins to win out over death, over the possibility of death. In one of the most pointed scenes of culture clash, Irfan instructs Kemal to set the table and serve dinner. When Kemal refuses to do what he considers women's work, Irfan exerts his authority as captain, declaring that there are no gendered jobs on his boat. And Miriam, meanwhile, begins to flower. Casting off her fear, and despite her second-grade education, she begins to find a sense of autonomy that might finally lead her to a real place of her own. But when there is the reveal of the Chekhov gun, I love it, it is a Chekhov gun she discovers under Irfan's mattress, which I'll get back to, when she finds the gun, she puts it back. She doesn't want to handle it. And watching the tension of these three souls colliding on the yacht creates a dynamic that, as I read, critics have frequently compared to, and I agree, to Roman Polanski's 1962 masterpiece, Knife in the Water. If you've never seen it, this is a good time to look for it. It may be on Canopy, especially when Irfan's wife wants Kemal to watch out for Irfan with Miriam. She lays the seed for what's about to happen. It leads to Kemal almost having a breakdown when Irfan and Miriam go off to the shore, and upon return, he tries to strangle Irfan, and the Chekhov gun appears in Miriam's hand again, and it keeps Kemal from killing Irfan. She tells Kemal, kill me now. I'm dead as far as you're concerned. But finally, things change again, but the past eventually catches up with the arrival of the assassins that the uncle had sent out to find them, the family, and ensure that the deed would be done, as he said. At Irfan's boat shatters the bliss they have built. Miriam is abducted, and in a moment of sheer desperation, Kemal and Irfan save her. Kemal finally realizes as Miriam screams out his father's name, who committed the rape. And as he returns to the village alone, he confronts his father, but he cannot kill him. But one shot indicates who did, Miriam's father. The film concludes with a final frame that provides a powerful bookend to the opening. Unlike the static reflections in the lake at the start, the closing image of Miriam and Kemal on the shore, and with her final words to Irfan, we can feel that true bliss has been earned, not given. Bliss is truly what I call the must see because it manages to be many things at once. It's comic, it's sad, it's melodramatic and tragic. It captures the clash of customs between Asia and Europe, the educated and the unenlightened. By the time the characters reach the bustling energy of Istanbul, we have realized that the film has put the entire nation under a microscope. It asks if a society can truly move forward while such ancient shadows still linger in its rural heart. The performances give this story a gravitas that prevents from becoming a mere soap opera. Even the secondary characters, like Kamal's brother Jakob, who disparages the old ways, help to flesh out a society in flux. In the end, Bliss offers us a hopeful, if complicated, vision. It suggests that while the stain of tradition is difficult to wash away, the human spirit, much like the water the characters sail on, has the power to carry us toward a new, more compassionate shore. This impact is heightened by the film's sensory layers. The music, which I thought was spectacular, the songs and the humming and the music itself, and it was composed by Zulfu Livanelli himself, the author of the book, who helped with the screenwriting. He himself composed this mystical score that blends traditional Turkish instruments with a contemporary suite, mirroring the old world's sorrow meeting the new world's uncertainty. Complementing this is the cinematography, which uses light as a character, bathing the Aegean in a golden glow that contrasts sharply with the cold shadows of the village. Upon its release, Bliss was a critical sensation. It swept the 2007 equivalent to the Turkish Academy Awards, winning nearly a dozen of them, including Best Actor, his name, who is Kamal, his name is Murat Han, and Best Actress for the beautiful Azgo Namal. She was a model before she became an actress. She started at the age of 16 and she's had a flourishing career. This was one of her first films and she was just spectacular in it. It also won for Best Music. And it received a special Human Rights Award from the Council of Europe. While it sparked controversy, because I know the question will come up, how is this received in Turkey? While it sparked intense conversation across Turkey, it was hailed as a courageous expose in cities while meeting defensive tension in traditional regions. It forced the audience to reckon with a difficult truth that a land so beautiful could harbor such ugliness, and that the only way out is to stop following the herd, And there you have my take on the film. And I just thought it was a spectacular production. When I first saw it back in 2008, I realized this will become a Turkish classic film, which it has become, and I hope you saw it the same way. And now I'd like to open it up so that you can all begin to comment. Linda.
This week, I really loved this film. First of all, black and white. I didn't really, wasn't it black and white? I was seeing it maybe
No, it
the
was in color.
Really?
Yeah, vivid color.
Really not on my computer.
I'm sorry.
That's pretty funny. In any case, I had been to Turkey, so I loved seeing that shot of the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul.
Well,
I don't know if that was background or if was it really filmed there?
yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. And then I love the music. And I noticed that when things got tense, you got one type of music and when things relaxed a little, it was different. I noticed that music right away. And I love the story. It kept me on my edge the whole time. As a matter of fact, several times I thought it was over. I thought it was going to end that way. way before the ending, where they were all sitting around drinking that last, the scene before the end. I thought if they ended there, I would hate the movie because I wouldn't know what happened. But I don't know. I watched it in black and white. It was very good.
Okay, well, interesting twist. Okay, thank you. And who's up next? Who's up next? Nobody? Wow, nobody has anything to say? Paulette?
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I go along with her. I mean, everything she said, plus much more. I mean, I held my breath when she was ready in Istanbul to jump off, and then he grabbed her. I mean, my heart was just fluttering. It just caught me in such a bind. I couldn't believe it. But ironically enough, towards 3/4 of the film, I said, you know, I think I saw this film, but I couldn't remember the ending. I had to go along, of course, with the entire film. The cinematography was outstanding as well as the music, but the acting was superb, absolutely superb. I loved the professor. I thought he was a gem of a human being, and he played that role so well. And I loved when he got her the necklace and she didn't want it. And he says, you can't be rude. That's being rude. And then what followed afterwards was a real calamity with her cousin. I mean, we go from a soft, calm, and all of a sudden an explosion. And this is what happened throughout the film. You know, you went up and down like you're climbing up a mountain. You fall down, you climb up again. I felt this throughout the entire movie. My heart was very calm, and then all of a sudden I got just thrown in to the calamity of what happened in the various scenes. It was phenomenal. Thank you for sharing this film with us.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much going on in the film, that I didn't even throw in yet, but it's, just the mere fact when Irfan buys them the clothes, and Kamal puts on I think it was a Burberry shirt, but he's looking fashionable, and she gets this purple blouse, over blouse, and she's just holding it and looking at it. And then puts it on and comes up on the deck, and Kamal is looking like, holy cow, compared to that girl that swims up to the boat in a bikini, that he's keeps looking at and turning away. And, there were humorous moments in the film. I mean, even Miriam comments, she's a beautiful girl. And it's like he says, I hadn't noticed. He pretends not to see, and sinks into the newspaper. There are a number of moments like that when she's in the kitchen and discovering all the appliances. It's all, it all fits in with the reality of the film, and the reality of who Marianne is. I thought it was terrific. Karen?
Let me see. Did I unmute? Yep, I did.
Yeah.
Yes. I really enjoyed the movie too. I thought it was excellent. The acting was great. And the scenery. When I first saw that their living quarters built into the rocks, it reminded me of some of the Southwest U.S. Where the Indians lived.
Mm-hmm.
But there, it had been abandoned. They had moved away from that area in the Southwest. And I agree about the music and the tension. Kept us on the edge of our seat a good bit of the time. I felt really sad, though, that she was treated so horribly by the mother, and like, oh, has anybody started talking yet? And that sort of thing. And then she just, she tells her, you have to eat or you'll die, and which is kind of a silly thing to say to somebody who's supposed to kill herself. And then in regard to the comedy, when you were talking about the fish, when he gave her the fish, he said, oh, you've never had fish before. And she said, tastes like chicken.
Tastes like chicken. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything tastes like chicken.
Right. But in general, it was a wonderful film. And like the other ladies, I do appreciate you bringing that. And just to see what it's like in another country, and with some of the ancient cultures. Even some of those honor killings have happened here in the U.S. are they've attempted to do that with the Indian people or Indian or Pakistanis. So it's something, you know, that they have no respect for. I mean, they claim to have respect for women, but there's really no respect. You know, whenever the food is served, you know, the boys get the meat or whatever. The women have to eat the, you know, beans or if there's anything left. The crazy thing about that is that, okay, so they're going to be the breadwinners, but the women are going to be the mothers. So anyway, I guess that was my take on it, and I really did enjoy it very much. Thank you.
Terrific. Yeah. You know, it's another interesting observation is the fact that this is a very tribal place. And Abi, the uncle, is, you know, has this factory. I guess he makes the bread, whatever it is. And we see that grinding wheel. I love that. That's another terrific metaphor for what's going on. But he is sort of also, he's aware of the world out there, but he keeps it out. He keeps it out because should it get in, he no longer has the power and the control he would have. You know, a typical dictator. He realizes that this power will go away if he doesn't exercise all of these rites and rituals and keep them blind, keep them as sheep. It is the best metaphor one can think of, that circle of sheep. Jackie.
We really enjoyed it. The circle of sheep is a very interesting one. And Arlette said something about highs and lows. And it was like a heartbeat. It would go down and it would go up and it would go down and it would go up. We enjoyed it very much. I thought it was very interesting that it's a little bit like a tale of two cities. It's a tale of two places that lives in the same country. Just like every country, when you stop and you really think about it, there's areas of this country or England or anywhere else that are so totally different that we don't always understand. It was kind of heartbreaking, and yet it was uplifting in a way, which is an interesting take for you, Shelley. Usually you don't give us both in one movie. And I kept saying something really bad's going to happen because this wouldn't be a Shelley movie otherwise. I kept saying, look, everybody, listen. I guessed what had happened to her, and I guessed who had done it, and it was heartbreaking to watch him realize that it was his dad. You just, I think most people put their fathers or their parents on a different level. And I think that it was heartbreaking for him to realize that. And then to watch her father's face when he realized what the guy was saying, that it was actually his cousin who had done it. So it was very well done. We really enjoyed it very much.
Thank you. Yeah, it is interesting. It's when you think back, if you were able to go back and look at the beginning of the movie and look at his face when he says what she's done is terrible, she's got to be killed, and you look at his face, you get the feeling there's something going on. And naturally, it comes to fruition at the end when but the fact that she refused to talk, she refused to say, the fear, it just pervades the women in the village, every place, that these places exist. And they still exist. There are still pockets like this that still exist. It's sad, very sad. Thank you, Jackie. Marilyn.
I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was done beautifully. It was so authentic. I mean, I didn't question any of it. I just thought all of it, whether it was the mountain, Istanbul, the yacht, what was his name? Irfan. He had all of it in there. And I really found that it was like totally believable and totally authentic. And even the people, I liked them all. It's not as if I didn't like the characters. Even Kamal, who was supposed to do the honor killing, I mean, I really saw part of him that he wasn't like the villain. He was here, and the misogynistic part of it, it was totally authentic, even when she had to make him a sandwich and she sat down and couldn't eat it until he started. I mean, this is what it is. I just thought I've seen other Turkish movies. Didn't we do, isn't Mustang, wasn't that Turkish?
Yes, that was Turkish. Yes.
That was one that I totally always remembered. Excellent as well. And I've also been watching a lot of Turkish streaming since way back in 2016 when Winter Sun was like, I thought it was amazing. They have whoever writes them and acts them, they are so authentic and so the storytelling is so great. And now it's become very popular to have Turkish streaming on a lot of the Netflix and whatever. However, what I'm finding is they're leaning towards writing them for an American audience and losing a lot of the authenticity. It's like greed and materialism, and that in this one there was a rich woman. I mean, Irfan's wife was very wealthy, and very often they do have somebody wealthy in their movies, but it doesn't take over the movie. It's just there. I just thought it was really excellent. I really loved it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Rachel. And I'll get to you, Bert. Don't worry.
I loved the movie also. I thought it was fantastic. I thought the characters were so authentic. And, I thought about this and I really don't have the answer. If she would have come clean and said it was the uncle, she couldn't win. It was a catch-22 because nobody would believe her and she'd still be killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was no way around it, so I was glad that it did have a happy ending. And I kept on, like, when the assassins did pick her up and take her away, I started screaming and my cat jumped off the bed and I'm like, no, this is not going to go down like this. You got to save her and she had really a horrible life, like a non-entity going through the motions of life without having, like, she wasn't allowed to think. She wasn't allowed to breathe her own air, to find out who she is as a person. And my hope, in people who I think this authentically could have happened. And I hope that they come into their own identity. I hope so. But it was an excellent movie from beginning to end. There was nothing that I could say bad about it. It was excellent, superb.
Well, I'm glad you really appreciated it. Thank you. We didn't, it's there are some ambiguous moments, especially with Irfan, when he's sitting there writing and pinning it to the wall, and his words are, "I'm dead, and I may come back." We link that to the gun. Was he going out to the ocean to kill himself? Was he, resigned? We don't know, where his mind was at that point, especially when he argues with his wife. He says, "I'm fed up with everything. I'm fed up with your world." He did have a friend who sailed off. We never know if the friend returned. Apparently not. So it leaves little things of Irfan in the air, but it's really the tension that is set up, because between him and Kamal, because Kamal says to her, "Don't trust anyone. Don't trust anyone." He's still leery of the modern world, and all he knows is combat. When he confronts Irfan, he says, "You want to know what a real enemy is?" And he says, "Don't let the sun shine in your eyes because you'll miss who it is." He's relaying his own his own fears and combat, PTSD, if you will, which you feel he might be suffering from on the train. When he's laying there, he hears bullets flying. He's hearing recurrences of battle. And how is that affecting him? But I think he manages to snap out of it, especially after all the bad stuff they go through. When Irfan says to him, "Listen, let it out, let it out." It's a form of therapy. He says, "Don't be afraid. You're really not a bad person, and you don't have to be. You don't have to be." And then jokingly says, "You almost strangled me." And wants him to understand that it's okay now. And he understands him. He understands him. I thought that was a powerful statement. Okay, Burton, go ahead.
You recognize my waving hand.
Yeah.
Early on in the film, there were a couple of momentary shots that I thought sent a pervasive message. One was, I believe, I'm not sure whether it was her father or the uncle. When they're introduced, one of them is holding Islamic prayer beads.
Right.
And you may know this, but a very devout Muslim will develop marks on their forehead because they put it down on the ground 5 times a day. And they become, I was going to say stained, but that's not true. They develop a brownish discoloration, like I'm going to say horns, but they're marks. I've only seen it a few times. So the presence of an Orthodox religion is immediately evident, at least it was to me when I saw the beads. The other ominous moment is when Kamal's father said, "Well, how many did you kill?" And as a commando, and his reply is a few, I don't know. And the father's reply with a little bit of a smile is good. And then, so I got the impression immediately that this man's the Godfather. He is the Godfather, and you don't cross him in any way whatsoever. So I thought the presence of that hint of Orthodox religion was revealed in the moment, and it doesn't leave Kamal's behavior.
It was there. I mean, until he has to accept, he's in the modern world.
He has a beard.
By the end, he realizes, he's realized, and he wants to spend his life with her. That moment that he goes back to want to kill his father, but doesn't. He walks away, and he's leaving that behind. He's left that behind. He's made the transition, and I think it really explains his character. He had character. He came to the human side, so to speak. He was no longer following orders. He was no longer. He also was no longer one of the sheep, which was interesting. So, yeah, Arlette, and then I'll get to you, Sandra.
What I found in the very beginning of the film, when the grandmother, Bibi, I think she called her, I think it was her grandmother that came and washed her hair,
her grandmother,
and took care of her and held her. That was I think the one warmth that she received in her family was from her grandmother. So that was overly poignant at the very beginning. Didn't expect that, but it stayed with her. I think she spoke about her grandmother in some part of the film. I don't remember.
Yeah, she did later on.
Yeah.
She talked about her grandmother telling her stories.
Yeah,
when
story.
She was young.
That was it. Yeah. That was very poignant. Beautiful. Beautiful.
It was interesting when she bathes her, she cleans her, but yet also before that moment, it was very interesting. If you noticed, she was when the stepmother came in, and when she closed herself in like a cocoon.
Yeah.
It was, she closed herself in like she was in a pod or a cocoon. and which was imminent to growth at some point,
Mhm.
transition. It was like a chrysalis, she was in there, and she was a beautiful girl. And she shines as the film goes on. We see her become more beautiful. So I thought
But
that was
look how
interesting.
look how strong she became when she didn't want to put that noose around her neck. Look how
Yes.
strong,
She became
defiant that she
defiant.
wanted to
Yes.
live. She
Yes.
wanted to live.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. Thank you, Arlette. Sandra, before I get to you, I remember Sandra Fuss was raising her hand. Sandra Fuss?
I don't have that much to say because everybody's kind of said it, but it was a beautiful, beautiful movie. We happened to have toured Turkey, so I really appreciated all the scenery and because it's just too bad that the government has become what it has because it's a fabulous country. And I also suspected the love story
Yeah.
between the two of them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it was something that you sort of hope for it as it propels forward. You sort of hope that they're going to get together, especially when he pulls her back. Because if he didn't pull her back, that's the end of the movie. It would have been a short. It would have been a short. So I knew,
Yeah.
he had to save her. But yes, the contrast of what the countryside and what the nature, even the city looks like is such a contrast to what is happening politically. We could look here and say the same thing. Anyway, I had to get that in.
Yeah, no,
And
Thank you.
also, it was the first one that we saw on Canadian Canopy.
Oh, terrific.
yeah, finally. But
Congratulations.
yeah, it's a struggle some weeks.
Yeah, well,
But
it's terrific.
anyways,
I'm
it,
glad.
it was it was a beautiful movie, and having been to Turkey, it's a fabulously interesting country, and it's too bad
Yeah,
how it's changed.
yeah,
But anyhow,
yes.
Turks are
Thank you.
beautiful. Anyways, okay.
Thank you, Sandra. Sandra Lefkowitz. Sandy.
Hi, I thought the movie was beautifully crafted in every way, and for me, the takeaway was if I were the filmmaker that made that film, I would really want to be having you appreciate how hard it is to change what is considered your culture, and that is he doesn't make it easy for us. I disagree a little bit about the coldness and separation of her family. The stepmother is clearly a villain, but I thought that the characters were real for their time, but they were stuck in a time. And Jamal was the crossover. She was a victim, and she was the means by which the filmmaker wanted to let you know how hard it is to move through a cultural, religious, governmental change in a country, and the surroundings almost have nothing to do with it because they were beautiful, they were lovely, but they were always beautiful and lovely. And as a tourist, sometimes that's what we see. And what we don't see is the despair, I think, in the people who are more our age and older who are witnessing and going through change and need to change. And I thought that that was the brilliance of the movie. And that Istvan, I think that his character had to have something that allowed him not to linger. He had to be a vehicle of being able to oversee and help redirect the movie. I thought that that was what was brilliant really brilliant in the movie. The way in which the filmmaker developed, or actually the novelist, because I'm sure it's probably close, where that character, he was a guy who had had a career, and was fed up with it. He had a wonderful career, but it's not all wonderful, even when all is modern and wonderful. And I think that to me, it really highlighted the problems we face when we look at a society and say, we need to change something. Yeah.
I think that, yes, he does. What he reflects is that even in his world, it's problematic. He has his flaws. And his wife, sort of reflects that. His relationship with his wife reflects that. But what's interesting and what you're saying, what I'm listening to, is, we see this director is saying, yes, this society has to change. It has to evolve. I mean, the first place we see is a primitive built out of a mountain, homes. It's primitive. It's caves, basically. Mm-hmm. It's the caveman era. And we see, them he's saying, and this is where we have to get out of those caves and we have to evolve. But we all put ourselves in different caves in the world. And while I see this film holding forth the promise of, okay, I give you a message, because the film is made for Turkey. Let's not, that's where it originally comes from. That's who it's made for. Fortunately, it gets out because of festivals, and then maybe a distributor picks it up. But it's made for Turkey, and in Turkey, they got the message. The city people especially did. The people in the rural areas who got to see it, it was quiet. It was restrained feelings of, yeah, I like to, but my husband will kill me if I do something. And yes, there's the cry for change, and yet look at another society where we seem to be regressing. Is the problem, is to say, you want to move forward, but sometimes you feel like you're moving backward. And that's the tug of war in the film, is and finally but what's the result? When her father kills his cousin, essentially, what's going to happen now? He is not the character that's going to take over.
Aren't they?
Somebody's probably going to kill him.
And they watched the movie twice.
Somebody's probably going to kill him. And because, he just killed the head of the village, so to speak. So, it's violence begets violence, unfortunately. But I don't want to go beyond that frame, because the story is about these other three characters. And they are three very, very good individuals to watch within the structure of the film. But thank you. Susan?
Hi there.
Hi.
I have been to Turkey, and the history, I think we've seen many, many movies about the ill treatment of women, about women who've been raped or women who were married and their husbands died. All of them, most of them taking place in Asia or Africa, where this tradition is more ingrained than it was in the Americas, let's say, or in Europe. And Turkey has always been the crossroads of two continents. Europe on one side of the Bosporus, Asia on the other side of the Bosporus. So what I took away from the movie, and I thought about it a lot tonight when I finished it. When it started out with the cliff dwellings or whatever, the dugout wetlands, since the beginning of history in this country, there's been this division of European influences and Asian influences. And here the Asian influences are the ones that control the villages, where the more populous areas are European. And I don't know if that's ever, this is for millennia. It's not just a matter of being modern or not modern. It's being a part of Europe or being a part of Asia.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, definitely.
And it occurred to me also that the desire for women to be kept in their place. I mean, I'm going to become a trad wife next time I'm reincarnated. You know this thing about trad wives?
No.
Oh, you're supposed to have as many children as possible and bake bread and
Oh, okay.
you know, if I were a man, I might like that. Who knows?
No. Well, it's interesting. You're absolutely right about the idea that Turkey has always been this transitional place between Asia and Europe. It's like sometimes they can't make up their mind which side they're on. And plus, they've always had this on and off relationship with Greece. That's also had an effect on them. But here, yes, and you look at that. I mean, first of all, to look at how they lived at the beginning was startling. I mean, now I know where architects got the idea of high rises from. I mean, that looked like a high rise. I was just wondering how they got up there. But the interesting part is the fact that there is, that this still exists, that this kind of life still exists, this pull. Because even in Asia, there is, you're right, it's the cities that evolve. And the rural areas seem to be, but there are rural areas in Turkey where those people from the city go as a retreat, and then they develop it as a retreat. So it changes. It brings the Western culture into those areas, and people go. By the way, that's a tourist area. That area we see in the film. I've seen it identified as a tourist area. The people go there to see that, to see how it exists like that. Because there's also part of it that's homes. You saw it on the side, sort of. There were shacks or whatever they were. So it is very interesting. But you're right. You're right. This is one of those situations. Thank you. Yes, Larry.
At the center of this whole thing is a story, and maybe we haven't spent enough time talking about that because it's a very dramatic, very appealing story with wonderful characters. And yes, the scenery and the culture and the particularity of the incident is poignant. But the fact is, it's a tender story that is among believable, compelling characters.
Absolutely, it is a love story. I mean, it's without question. It's a love story that exists on the fact that he has to learn. He has to transform in order to realize he loves her. Because if you remember, Irfan says to him, "You love her, don't you?" I could tell. He was being a father. I could tell, and he says, "Yeah, I love her." Just very shyly. He says it. He sort of smiles and says it. He becomes a kid again, and I think that moment really was broke through to him, and he was able to breathe. He was able to breathe because that's what Irfan said. You got to breathe. You got to let up. You're too tense, and I know how you must feel. And he finally admits it, and I think that was the moment. But she was growing throughout the whole film. I mean, some of the things she said to him, if you remember when they were on the ferry going into Istanbul, and he admonishes her for talking to the woman, he says, "I told you not to talk to anybody." She says, "That was on the train. This is the boat." I thought that was hilarious when she said that. What a wisecrack. And it's natural. It was innocent. It was innocent on her part, but it came out for us as a funny remark. I thought it was terrific that she was able to do that. And when she does, not just when she breaks down at the end and confesses to who did it, there are other parts of the film where she really expressed herself. I mean, just, came to tears. The time when she's going to die at the beginning, when he wants her to jump, and she looks down and she says, "Let me blindfold myself." The thinking of that, I don't want to have to, I don't want to have to see it. And she says, I will now be with my mother." that is so touching. And he's standing there listening. First he took out the gun, then he puts away the gun, and he's standing there listening to this, and there's humanity in him. There's a great deal of humanity in him, and he knows it, and he was resisting it. And at that moment, it's not only is he pulling her into life, but he's joining her in that life. He's joining her in that life. I mean, that's a pivotal moment in the film because the way the director structures it, pulling her back into life. That's the way I saw it, and I stick by that. But yeah, it is a beautiful love story. It is a beautiful love story. Thank you for reminding us. Karen?
Okay, I liked the way the professor was enjoying teaching the girl because when he found out she had a second grade education, but she was really interested in everything he told her. And when he took her out and showed her where you could look through the bottom of the bucket and see the fish, I thought he was just really enjoying that experience.
Yeah, I mean, well, he realized that she was really clever. I mean, when she looks at the map he gives her the magnifying glass, and she says, "Wow, it's big." It's the world is big. She's getting into it, and it is interesting to watch her growth in the film. Thank you. Nancy, you gotta unmute yourself.
Okay.
There you go.
I hate to throw shade into this whole conversation, but
So don't. No.
No, one thing I do wonder, as this whole film has developed and we see the relationship and whatever, what happened to his PTSD? I mean, it generally, as a mental dysfunction, doesn't just disappear like that. I mean, they have to deal with that, do they not? And it comes up and it beats her up, or even when he thinks that the two of them have run off together with the professor and she have run off. That's a PTSD moment. It just seems to me. I mean, other than that, everybody's great stuff, so whatever. But I wonder about that.
No, there is an essence of it. I would say there's an essence of it. He has a rage. He has rage, and he exercises it towards Irfan, a little towards her. But he's trying. He is methodically trying to control it. I think he has to. Because he's not used to the modern world.
Right.
His only confrontation with the modern world is confrontation. It was battle. It was fighting. As he tells Irfan, he when they're talking about being soldiers, he said, well, you go out on a mission, you come back, you find out your whole place is burnt out, people are dead, and then you got to go out again. This is the exercises. You got to kill. I mean, as someone mentioned, when he said, when his uncle said to him, when his father said to him, did you kill anybody? Yeah, a few. It's like he doesn't want to admit it. He's trying to contain what happened to him. And it's difficult. It's difficult. But I think we realize it. And, we put a label PTSD on it. And I don't know how well they're handling that in the Turkish army. But for him to realize that that's what he's probably has an inkling of, on our part in the film. But I think he's being controlled. I mean, Irfan controls him a little bit. She begins to control him because he's in love with her. So there's hope. There's hope that it won't go that far. That's all you can do. That's all you can do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but thank you. I respect your feelings.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yes, Sandra first.
Um, number one, I thought that Irfan was probably had some kind of illness and he was going to die. I don't know why I thought that.
I agree.
And I also was suspect of him. I I wasn't sure that he wasn't going to do something bad with that girl. I don't know why, but I felt that way at first until obviously he was good, but I was suspect of him.
I'm glad you did feel that way because that was the intent of the director. That to set up that tension on the boat.
Yeah.
That's why I suggest if it's available on Canopy or you could find it somewhere else to see Knife in the Water. I mean, you could see he directly pulled stuff out of that film because it all takes place on a sailboat, the same kind of boat with three people. And it creates that kind of tension as you don't know what's going to happen.
Well, I certainly felt that way. Like I
Yeah,
said, I don't know, is
yeah,
this guy okay or is he not okay or is he,
yeah.
yeah,
No, by the time he was with his wife and having the argument, you began to see who he really was. And his wife evilly sets him up at that point with Jamal there,
yeah,
saying, watch out for him,
yeah,
especially with the girl. No, I think he was enjoying himself. I mean, if you notice when the girl in the bikini shows up, one of his ex-students, I mean, he's trying to get rid of her. He really, he talks to her for a few minutes. He remembers who she is. And you notice when she says, we're having a barbecue, so come by. As soon as she leaves, the first thing he says is, "Way anchor to Jamal, let's get out of here." He
yeah.
really didn't want to be with these people. He really didn't want to be with these people. He
I wasn't sure until
yeah,
towards the end.
he was separating himself from that world. It's
Yeah,
interesting. Here we have two people coming out of a primitive world to a Western world, and we have an intellectual in the Western world that wants to withdraw from that world.
in that world.
We don't even look at that balance of or imbalance of what's going on. He's escaping. They're escaping into the world, and he's trying to escape out of the world with the
Why,
boat.
it was a bit suspect for me, but then I
Yeah,
realized.
yeah,
Anyways,
yeah. Okay.
Shelley, I
Yes.
think what we're trying to tell you is we love the Turkish movie and we wouldn't be upset if you found another one.
Well, coming soon.
we love the Turkish movies. I
Coming soon.
love
Wait, I
them.
saw Mrs. Benjamin has a comment. Well, you got to unmute yourself. Bert, unmute your wife.
Okay, my name is Elise. Well,
Thank you, Elise.
also was very suspect. He's in a boat that's probably worth $500,000 in our perspective, and he's out there alone. And I say, who is this man who must be very wealthy, but why is he out there alone? The whole thing was very peculiar, and I as well was very suspicious. And then, of course, when his wife comes into the picture and you realize it's her money with the boat and he's kind of running away. But I agree. I thought it was very peculiar when he showed up in that boat and was willing to take them on. They were very trusting of what was a very suspicious situation to me.
Well, Jamal wasn't that trusting. I mean, he went along because it was a way for them to escape. But I don't think he was that trusting.
No, but they trusted him.
No, he said to her, "Don't trust anybody.
Oh, okay,
Don't trust him."
right.
Yeah,
right.
But
right.
So it was set up that way to create the tension in the film.
Right.
It's that's the way it's done. So,
right.
But thank you, Elise. Thank you. Okay. Yes. There's coming soon, which is in 2 weeks. Yes. We have another film which takes us into Turkey, but it begins in Germany. But it begins with the Turkish population in Germany. It's a film. It's called The Edge of Heaven. It is by a German Turkish director, His parents are Turkish, but he was born in Germany, and he is one of Germany's most influential directors. Anyway, this was a film that was Germany's entry for the Academy Award back in 2007. And since the other film was from the same year, that was Turkey's submission. Bliss was Turkey's submission. Now you're going to see Germany's submission, but it's a story that spans two continents and again, two different worlds, several people, two sets of mothers and daughters, a father and his son, and they will all cross paths. Each is searching for understanding, love, reconnection. Through their journey through a troubled world, as you'll see, they will each be transformed in profound ways. Now, I do want to give you a little, it's a sort of heads up in understanding the film. It's what we call a hyperlink film. I don't know if any of you have ever heard that term. I've explained it before, but a hyperlink film is where it surrounds an event or it surrounds a character and several people will cross paths that don't know each other, but they will connect in some way. They will connect. They're like, there was a film called Babel several years ago about a gun that circles the world and all these people that are touching this gun or coming in contact with it and how they all become connected by the end. Traffic. You remember the film Traffic? It was about a traffic accident, but people that didn't know each other wind up becoming connected through it. Nashville is another perfect example of a hyperlink film. But we see a group of characters. Manhattan, Woody Allen's Manhattan deals with a number of disparate characters, but it's all about how the city brings them together. So this is the same thing. It's these two worlds, Germany and Turkey, that will link one another and link the characters. So remember that. I just want you to have that in your mind as you watch the film, is to try and make sense out of what you're seeing. But it is a very well crafted film. I think a powerful one of two worlds in collision. So without any further questions, anybody have anything else they'd like to add? Ask me.